Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. As you see, Mike Washington is on assignment. Charles is not on assignment, and he should be in shortly. Well, I guess he is on assignment. That's what has him running late. And Drew was moving and boogieing down the road, as some would say, and he made it happen.
Just traffic.
So it wasn't boogie. It was slow boogie. Trying to make it happen. But with that being said, we're prepared to give you a great show in week number 7 for the major and mid-major divisions in terms of what that looks like on that side. But furthermore, this is inside the HBCU Sports Lab, so we want to make sure we do it correctly. And welcome you to episode 783 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. For institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. As you said, they're out on assignment. We should get a guest appearance of Charles Bishop, and we'll bring him right into the fold when he taps in. But with that being said, we are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KSOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, as we like to remind you, multi-Hall of Fame is Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, how are you doing today, AD?
Man, when you host an event on your campus as big as lacrosse, and your institution is not set up for lacrosse and all the adjustments that you have to make lacrosse possible in your stadium, from painting lines to adjusting the scoreboard to adjusting the play clocks to proper times to just it's almost like setting up for homecoming, man.
Right. That's what it is. It really is. That's why I tell a lot of folks when they talk about having more folks regular for home games, I'm not sure if they really understand what that looks like, because you would love to see what you see in homecoming for all of your home games or multiple home games for sure. But that stresses a lot of works on people if you're not.
I don't want to see that.
A lot of fans, I should say. Let me qualify that, and probably the AD. But you're right. There's certain people in terms of workload that's like maybe not. But even with that said, let's get into some news of the day. But before we do that, we do have a final, as we like to do on our Thursday show, even though we focus on the men's updates in terms of mid-major and major division poll rankings. Throughout the show, we give the updates for the women's showcase on Thursday, and we have a update, a final game that tipped off early, which was Alabama State at Bethune-Cookman, and it was a widespread game for a while, but at the close, the Hornets just get out of Daytona with the victory. 61-60 is the final of that game, final score, I should say, of that game. We do have an update with Texas Southern on the road trailing to UAPB at 6 minutes and 8 seconds left in the second quarter. They are trailing 20-24 in that matchup. You also have a tip-off in Tallahassee. Second quarter, 7:28 to be left to be exact. And we have a close one. Alabama leads 12-11 in that matchup. So we'll give you a couple of other matchups and scores as they get going in some of these later tipped-off games. But with that being said, are there some updates that you wanted to provide us from a news perspective, AD?
That I want to provide? The one that everybody's been waiting on since mid-December from Morehouse? Heck yeah, is one I want to provide. Because I'm tired of everybody asking me about it.
Well, let's let go.
Yesterday,
Yes.
Morehouse has named Brad Sherrod, most recently the head coach at Texas Wesleyan, as the next head football coach of the Maroon Tigers. Sherrod, a veteran coach with more than 30 years of experience across every level of football, NCAA, FBS, FCS, and AIA, brings championship leadership, proven program development, and sustained success to his new role. Sherrod arrives at Morehouse following a two-season run at Texas Wesleyan, where he posted a 17-6 overall record, including a 10-1 mark in 2024, and guided the Rams to not one but two NAIA playoff appearances. And in that 10-1 season, Dr. Cavil, they went 8-0 in the Sooner Athletic Conference, home of our beloved HBCU, the Langston Lions.
Yeah, I like that. Also, don't forget the Texas College Steers are in that conference.
That is correct for football. I
Um,
forget they're in there for football.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So fascinating when you talk about that matchup, and I think that's a good point that you put it out there because some people will ask, as the long and a lot of people are into this point where you think you're bringing in NFL individuals, so people may have anticipated that. So when you have somebody that has certainly the accolades and the metrics behind in terms of what they're gun, people will say, "Who is that?" And I think you did an excellent job of making the correlation in terms of where he went, or where he was, I should say, at the NIA level in the HBCUs that were in that conference in terms of Langston, that had played some football, good football, kind of dipped down the last couple of years. But in terms of what your new coach brings to the table, that may be a little bit of the reason why. And obviously, Texas College, that had a pretty good season last year, not so much this year, gives you some of that HBCU connection, certainly thinking about the state of Texas. So it'll be fascinating to see what type of work he can get done in terms of what it look like. Who put some up? Oh, Lord.
I have no comeback for that. I have no comeback.
There's somebody is a little bit accurate, so we'll talk about that.
So since there's no comeback for that, Dr. Cavil, I'm just gonna spin the subject and just say introductory press conference will be held at 10 o'clock Eastern time on Monday morning.
Good stuff. I want to give a shout out to men's basketball players. We got Dante Horn for Prairie View A&M Offensive Player of the Week, and then you have Deshaun Ruffin that continues to show out. He was Impact Player of the Week, and Jamil Motilib was Newcomer of the Week, and that's for Prairie View, Jackson State, and Grambling, respectively. Give you what took place. I got to see Dante Horn on Saturday, and that game he had against Southern, if he had just a little bit of help, it would have been one for the record books where he put up 40-some points. But his combination really showed out for him with the victory that he was able to get against Grambling on Monday. Southwestern Athletic Conference has tabbed Prairie View A&M's Dante Horn, Jackson State Deshaun Ruffin, and Grambling State's Jamil Multiple for the men's basketball weekly honors. Horn led all league scorers in points per game during the past week of competition. He averaged 36 points per game while pacing Prairie View A&M offensively. Ruffin was impressive this past week as he led Jackson State offensively. He averaged 26.5 points per game during JSU's outing against FAMU. And Bethune-Cookman, newcomer, as we said, was none other than Jamil who was a key contributor for Grambling State during this week. This past week of competition, he averaged 25.5 points per game to go along with 6 rebounds per game for the Tigers in terms of that matchup. So big news there for some players of the week. I certainly wanted to shout out because I witnessed that game on Saturday and I was very impressed in terms of what that looks like. Didn't get the win, I must say that. But Prairie View lost 87-82. Very entertaining matchup. But Horn went 14 for 25 on the field goal, Drew, 14 to 16 from the free throw, and scored 46 points in that match.
Yeah. Let, let me ask you this, Dr. Cavil.
Sure.
Uh, Anybody on the D1 level going to challenge Deshaun Ruffin for Player of the Year? I mean, he's got to be the number one person for SWAC Player of the Year, but I'm talking about anybody from the MEAC or Tennessee State that can challenge him for Player of the Year.
Tennessee State has a couple of players that can challenge him. That was the key word you said, challenge him. So I will talk about Tennessee State has a couple of players, obviously, and they're in the mix in terms of whether they're getting done there in terms of those teams. You have Harper over there. He is just averaging 17.6 per game, but they're winning and playing really well. Then I think at this point you got to sneak in and look a little bit of Howard. Howard has come back and playing some really strong basketball at this time. So you probably could take somebody off their roster.
We got Bryce Harris.
Harris.
Yes.
Or Bryce Harris,
Yeah.
that has been all world for a while. He has 17.3, but he is shooting 47.7 field goal percentage and 79.1 from the free throw line. So those are some guys I think you want to look at from a broader perspective. And now with this past weekend, in terms of what Dante just did, at least you got to at least give him a nod. If he can do anything like he did in those matchups, he'll at least close the gate. But I think your greater point, Ruffin is in that driver's seat, and I'm not sure if somebody's in the passenger seat to just give you a greater point. Now, I'm not sure if anybody's close. A couple of people in the back seat in terms of what that looks like. And with him missing a couple of those games, probably helped at least put them in the mix. But yeah, you're right. Ruffin he's nice. He's nice. Yeah. With that being said, let me go back to you and ask you some other news. You want to give us the MEAC players of the week?
Yeah, but while I pull that up, no, I've got this thing called a big lacrosse event going on my campus this week, Blue Jacket. So I had to stay back while the team traveled to Kentucky State to play for that all important seeding as we get ready for the SIAC tournament, as this is the last scheduled weekend in the SIAC, but there are multiple makeup games next week before the first round opens up on the 28th.
I did want to say that Harper is shooting 48.4% on his field goal, as I gave the numbers for Howard over there, and then he's shooting 84.8% free throw percentage from the field. So nice stats in terms of what they're getting done there. When I gave it for Bryce, I want to make sure I shared it for Harper the second as well. That being said, you want to stay over there in the MEAC and give some updates in terms of their players?
Yeah, and you mentioned Bryce Harris, so it's kind of appropriate that we go into the MEAC Player Week presented by Wells Fargo, because Howard University guard Cedric Taylor III. Where have I heard that name before? Oh yeah, that's right. He used to play at Morehouse. Was named Player of the Week. Teammate Bryce Harper earned Defensive Player of the Week honors. Coppin State University guard Davion Leitner was Rookie of the Week. Taylor's averaged 20 points per game, shoot a perfect 16-16 from the charity stripe, and 9 boards, 8 assists, and 4 steals across 2 contests. Harris anchored Bison defensively in conference and non-conference play, totaling 10 boards, 4 steals, 5 blocks on the week. He also added 15.5 points and 6 assists just to show he could do it from the offensive side also. And Leitner, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block, and 15 minutes of action over North Carolina Central.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side and get into the mid-major division, if you would.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell them mama hungry.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop and A.D. Drew. As we get into the mix, let's get into the mid-major division as Charles is perfect timing to see what he thinks about my top 5 on the mid-major division. Drew, what you got?
Perfect timing. Doc, I was tardy. Charles was late.
Charles was late today.
Hey, man. That's like the professor coming into the classroom. Somebody pointing the room. Hey, y'all sign in. It's good to have you here. No, he was late. Going back to
I'll take that today. I was
middle
late.
school. We're talking about, nah, I'm telling. I'm trying to get my points. It's I need my extra points on the quiz. With that being said, let's pull up the rankings and see what took place this past weekend. We did have a game yesterday for those that may have caught it or may not have caught it. We had South Carolina State taking down North Carolina Central. So when we get into the major division for the next segment, that will not be reflected. We had a couple of games played at the mid-major division. So keep that in mind as we get into the rankings for week number 7. We do these rankings after Monday's games is the shutoff date usually. Sometimes we spread it out and maybe redo the rankings. But this week, with the schedule I had, it was not to be. With that being said, let's look at no one dropping out. So we don't have a lot of changes there. We do have some receiving votes. This may get a little monotonous in terms of boring because there wasn't quite a lot of changes, to be frank with you. You had Morehouse Maroon Tigers sit at 15-9, 15-5. Again, that's since Monday. Clark Atlanta Panthers sit at 18-7, 15-6, half a game behind Morehouse. With that big win that people are still excited about from last week. That again, if you did not see last Sunday's show, you got to go check it out in terms of checking out that shot at the end of the game. The way they broke it down with pictures, and one young student, actually, his picture was really admired by a lot of folks, including AD Drew and Brian, in terms of what he was able to get done. So I want to shout him out. AD Drew, you have his name again? I forget.
Marquise Bragg, Bragg. Somebody named Bragg who works for a Rattler. Who'd have ever thunk that?
Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Florida Memorial Lions, 17-8 and 8-9-4. Tougaloo, Mississippi Tornadoes, 16-8, 10-12. They did jump in the poll. They were not in it last week, so slowly getting it done over there in Tougaloo. Yeah. Knew it wouldn't be but so long before you could hold them back, right? They're rolling now. So let's get in the top 5 to see what that looks like. And you'll see some usual refrain as we get through this and why I said it might get a little boring for you. Fayetteville State Broncos sit at 18-6, 12-2, 39 points. They were ranked number 5 last week, and guess what? They stayed in the 5th position. Moving us to number 4, we have the Miles Golden Bears. They sit at 18-6, 16-6, 44 points. Guess what? They were ranked 4th last week and remain in the 4th spot. Looking at number 3, do we get some changes? No. Tuskegee Golden Tigers sit at 18-7, 17-5, 53 points. And as I said, no changes. That means they stay in the 3rd position. Number 2, we had changes last week. Do we get something in the mix? No, it is Langston Lions for the 2nd consecutive week. They sit at 21-5, 16-4. They do have 3 first-place votes, which is 1 less than last week. 67 points remain in the 2nd spot. Just holding down that number 1 spot. Virginia Union Panthers sit at 23-3, 12-2, and they rolling 7 first-place votes, 79 points, and they remain at the number 1 spot. Charles, do you have any headache this week in terms of mid-major for week number 7 in terms of the top 5 particularly?
No real headache. Shout out to Coach Eric Strathers at Tougaloo. Receiving some votes, well-deserved. Tougaloo, again, like you said, they're making some waves. The question I did have in regards to the SIAC.
Oh, boy.
The balance of power, is it in the East or is it in the West?
You want to be honest with you, Charles?
Yeah.
Once you get past the top in both of them, that's a little bit of a drop off between 2 and 3 on both sides. So we really don't know where the balance of power is. Now, the East is a little bit, the West is a little bit more top heavy as far as the accumulation of wins. But on the East side, Savannah State is in the mix on the East, but there's a big thing. Now, right now, and I hate to say this, I really hate these words that are getting ready to come out my mouth. When we cross over in a divisional, the West has a slight advantage over the East.
Okay. That's I was curious after I looked through some games and whatnot.
Yes, I will say that I think the West has a slight advantage over the East when it comes to it overall head-to-head matchup, especially at the top.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Mm-hmm. Great breakdown. Great question. Charles. I'm with AD. I don't think there's much difference in the mix. It'll be interesting if we'll get any payoff in the tournament. Maybe lean one way or the other. Although sometimes in the tournament it can be a mixed bag in terms of whether that's really selling you. At least we'll have some more data points on some crossover matchups to see what that looks like.
It's usually after the first day when you're able to tell.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, how many is it 4-4? Is it 5-3? Is it 6-2? That's when you could tell where there may be the potential balance of power may be.
Okay.
Yes. With that being said, AD Drew, what do you think of the top 5?
I got one big beef, Dr. Cavil.
Uh-oh.
Miles beat Tuskegee Saturday. I don't know if your voters got the memo. I know Tuskegee's in first place, but Miles beat Tuskegee. I know Tuskegee is the only SIAC team that made it to the first regional rankings, but you can make an argument for Miles because Miles beat Tuskegee.
That's true. What was the final score of the game? What is
I think it was
because they split on the season, right?
Yes, they split on the season. I want to say it was like a 3 or 4 point game. I do not remember what that final was, Dr. Cavil.
66-60.
Yeah, all right, so it was 2 possession game.
Yeah, in overtime.
Yeah. You also have to remember Morehouse beat Tuskegee a couple of weeks ago.
That's true.
Morehouse beat Miles a couple of weeks ago. So and Morehouse beat Clark Atlanta, who's behind them. So do you consider could you squeeze Morehouse in with one of those, especially considering the fact that Miles beat Tuskegee?
Yeah, can we get a shout out and a hope for a Final Four which features Miles, Tuskegee, Clark Atlanta, and Morehouse?
Can I say once again?
It won't happen in the SIEC.
I'm really going to get myself in trouble. But if you want the ideal matchups in the Atlanta metro area,
yes,
those are the 4 teams that you want to see.
Oh, you're right.
In that,
you sure right.
And if the women's teams happen to also be involved, I haven't seen this new arena that we're going to be playing this tournament in, but that arena might be sold out if you get some combination of those matchups in the rankings. And quickly, Dr. Cavil, Langston last NAIA rankings was number 8 nationally on the Division II level, because the first rankings that come out in Division II, they just list the teams. They don't give you the 1 through 10. In the Atlantic region, both Virginia Union and Fayetteville were ranked. And in the South region, which is where the SIAC is, only Tuskegee was ranked, with Miles, Clark Atlanta, and Morehouse, just all 3 of them just outside the top 10.
That's good stuff. Great comments. All right, let's take our next break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll try to do it again. This time, we'll see if we get any changes in the major division. It is a little different on that side of things because we had one of those weekends where if you are a team that was winning, nothing went right. With that being said, the only thing that went right is it went not right for everybody. It'll be interesting to see who is number 1 in the major division. So as we're doing this, those that have their opinions, share. Who do you think will be number 1 in the major division? That being said, we'll be right back after this break as Charles is chuckling a bit and he's ready to get into it because he seems like he might be a little bit surprised. With that being said, we'll be right back after this break. They get the cheat notes. They get to see it a little bit.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
And we have to fund our kids in these colleges, and we have to make sure.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Charles, we're gonna get into it, but before we get into it, I'm gonna do another tease. We do have 5 HBCUs playing women's basketball game. Well, actually, I guess it's 9 HBCUs, 4 games, if you would, and then 1 in the OVC. In the OVC, you have a nice one going on. It's even 66 with 5 minutes left in the fourth, with Tennessee State women hosting Lindenwood. So we'll see what that turns out to be and keep you up to date as that goes to close. But on the other side, we have a couple of games that are at halftime. It looks like one is starting back up. As we open up the show, we had an early matchup in a final. We had Alabama State defeating Bethune-Cookman. They were leading for most of that game with a double digit, but it closed up, but they held on 61-60. As you open up Prairie View at Mississippi Valley State, this is the game we said that if Prairie View is going to get one, this was the game. They are at least in the mix. It's under 10. But on the road, that's tough. 17, it was 7.
I think they got a chance at Jackson
17-26 with 5:56 left in the third. What you saying, Charles?
They still host Jackson State.
Yeah, Jackson State, I forgot, they've hit the struggle bus and a couple of players left, so that might be one that I can get a little interest in particular at home. Great point. You're right. I'm glad you brought that back to the fray. Things do change over a season, don't they? Alabama A&M is starting to pull away from FAMU on the road, 27-14. That's at half. You have also Texas Southern on the road at Arkansas Pine Bluff at the half, and Pine Bluff is leading 29-27. That might be another one, Charles, when you talk about that's the last home game, and another team that has hit the struggle bus in the negative way has been affected by a couple of key players being lost on the season. So you're right. With that, maybe those are the games. Texas Southern is struggling. You're talking about teams that have lost a couple in a row as well when you're talking about Jackson. You're talking about Texas Southern that's lost 4 straight games. So you're right. Eesh. Tough. With that being said, let's bring it up for the men's side where we get in there as I teased everybody and see what they're thinking in terms of the rankings. We're talking about we did have one team dropping out, so you know that's at least going to change. UAPB that was playing some great basketball still had a solid weekend in terms of the competitive of their games, but they dropped 2. They go from 8-3 in the standings to 8-5. The good thing for them is everybody lost, so they still the same distance away from the top team, but they now are tied in second with about 4 teams in the SWAC. We'll get you that exact rankings after we go through this. So look at those teams that are receiving votes. What does that look like now? Jackson State Tigers got hot. They've won several in a row. They sit at 8-5, 52 points. UAPB is still in the mix. Golden Lions, they're 8-5 with 48 points. Southern Jaguar split. They're at 8-5 after a big win. They had a tough loss. Texas Southern, you see in the mix, gave them that loss at home. Went down to the last shot where a player got fouled. Southern Jaguar folks are still questioning their call. I said, hey, get used to it. This is what happens when you're down on the bluff. We just a little payback with the Texas 2 steps. You got away with one, not the other. Alabama A&M Bulldogs in the mix too, sitting at 8-5. So you see those 4 teams, 8-5, pushing for that 2 seed early in their tournament as we talk about how important that could be. Let's look at the top 5 where it gets interesting. Morgan State Bears are previous at number 2. Couple of tough losses. They sit at 6-3. They fall 3 spots, 53 points. at number 5. At number 4, we have North Carolina Central Eagles. They were 4. They fell a slot at 5, and as I said, they just lost yesterday, so they're actually at 6 and 4. So depending what they do Saturday and Monday, they may not remain in the top 5, or they might get right. Tough road loss to South Carolina State. Closed it late in the middle part of the second half, and then South Carolina State Bulldogs pulled away near the end of that matchup, just to give you some indication for those that didn't watch that. At number 3, we have Howard Bison. They were not ranked, and they are hot. They're at 7 and 3, 2 first-place votes, and jump all the way in. Some people think they should have been number 1, but they can't do that on this poll rankings. They do jump back in the mix, not ranked in there at number 2. Yeah, Charles, some people voted them number 1. In fact, 2 people voted them number 1.
I did.
Number 2. Exactly. At number 2, what do we have going on? We have Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, which means we will have a new number 1. They do hold on to 3 first-place votes, 2 losses this past weekend. Tough losses, their trips to Alabama as it got done. 10 and 3. They're fighting a little bit of injury bug, so it'll be interesting to see what that means to close out the season. 3 first-place votes, 99 points, and they do lose that number 1 ranking in week number 7, which means the new number 1 this week, Tennessee State Tigers, 11 and 5. They're pushing forward. 5 first-place votes, under 5 points. Move previously ranked 4. One of the teams that were kind of steady. They move up to the number 1 ranking. It'll be interesting because all these teams had wins, lost. Some had 2, some had 1. But nobody really were able to break it down and get 2 wins consecutively to kind of shut things down. With that being said, let me go to Charles. It is Hemming and Hawing already. Let's see what he actually has to say.
So Morgan State loses 1 and they fall 3 spots, right? And Tennessee State loses 1 and they number 1. What did Howard do wrong? And they won 2. They just weren't ranked, huh?
They weren't ranked. And just enough people are not fascinated. This is one of those things where, to me, you really look at the first place votes. Okay. So you're right. There's some people that clearly say that they should be number 1. In fact, there's 2. And you have 3 people that think Bethune-Cookman should have still stayed number 1. Yeah. And you just had some people that were so fascinated, probably that already loved Tennessee State. And this was just the time they decided, since everybody else faltered, that they were going to get their first place to Tennessee State. So I think it's a little bit of mixed bags. I think this is just one of those anomaly weeks where I think what you're saying is correct. You could chop this up. I wouldn't have a problem with it. I don't think there's any clear indication in this week who's playing the hottest basketball. As we said, it's the first week in a while where you see teams split. I mean, literally, pretty much every team in the top 5 split, and a couple of teams having 2 losses. If it wasn't for the team sitting at 8 and 5, some of those teams probably had the biggest weekends, picking up 2 wins, but they were so far back, they just didn't have enough to push in the top 5.
Yeah.
With Howard, that has kind of been on a momentum. I think they've won how many in a row now?
2 in a row.
2 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
5 out of the last 6, 2 in a row.
Yeah, 5 of the last 6. So that's probably where you get a little bit of momentum there. Make the argument. Anything else concerns you in this poll ranking, Charles?
Is this the late season Texas Southern push? I saw they were receiving votes. So so many of these teams, you kind of look. I mean, it's sort of, Jekyll and Hyde. So I just, the SWAC right now is so tough to predict week in, week out, who's doing what. I mean, I thought at one point Pine Bluff was playing the best ball. At one point I thought Southern was playing the best ball. Definitely Bethune-Cookman, but
then we had a couple of weeks where FAMU was in the mix. Prairie View started off looking like
jumped out hot. So
they hot. Prairie View jumped out hot. So, it's just one of those years where it's probably going to be who's hot the last part of the year at the right time. One at the end of the season to close out on the regular season championship, and then certainly in the tournament to see who gets the bid. So it should be a good one.
And
You
then
talking about
so many teams have
A&M
lost
is playing
double-digit
some good
leads.
basketball. Alabama A&M.
Yeah, A&M playing good basketball, but what jumps out is there are so many teams that have given up double-digit leads. So it's hard to get a fix on who's who. Like when Southern was up on Texas Southern by 18 this past week, just did not see Texas Southern getting back in that game. And sure enough, not only did they get back in the game, I think a little bit of controversy at the end with the foul, but that was big, and you don't know how a team could ride the momentum of a win like that to kind of get things up and going. So
good point. Yeah, it's just something about the 3-point shot in the college game these days where 15, 18-point game to me is not different. To be a little safe, you need to be around at 23, 25, where you really feel comfortable about a lead. Eddie Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of the top 5? What direction are you going?
This is completely random where I'm going to start off with, Dr. Cavil.
I love it.
But 2 of your top 5 are private schools. I don't know why that just popped into my mind.
Yep.
With Bethune and Howard, the one private school in the MEAC, the one private school in the SWAC,
that's
right, in our top 5. Like I said, I don't know why that just popped into my head. But
that's a good one, though.
Anyway, what I find interesting, Doc and Charles, is especially when you see what happened this weekend in the SWAC and in the MEAC, throw out Mississippi Valley in the MEAC, in the SWAC, throw out Delaware State in the MEAC. Everybody is within 1 weekend of relevancy.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everybody is bunched up. Your top team in the MEAC, 73. Your number 7 team in the MEAC is 4-6. That's 1 weekend, and that whole thing can flip.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's go to the SWAC. With Bethune coming back to the pack last weekend after laying an egg in Mississippi. They're 10-3. You got a quadrant at 8-5. You got another couple people at 7-6. Your number 11 team is 5-8.
Yeah.
1 weekend can flip this whole thing. And as we get this close to tournament time, that's a lot of anxiety that people have. And do I need to plan on Monday? Or do I need to prepare because I'm gonna be resting until Thursday? It's in the back of their mind. Obviously, the most important game is your next game, but somewhere out there, somebody's putting this stuff in these kids' ear. They're asking these coaches about it. The coaches are saying the right thing, but it's just amazing that at this point in time in the season, you usually have a lot clearer picture of what your tournament is going to look like. Right now, 1 weekend, and you've got to change hotel plans.
Yeah.
Good point. The other thing you talk about is as deep as the SWAC is, they only have 1 team in the top 5. It's one of those weeks, and I think some of that will play out because the MEAC plays each other so much in terms of a smaller roster site. So I think it'll at least even out with 2-2. But at this point, for week 7, just to give you some indication to both of y'all's point, just how funky things are right now. You have 3 of the MEAC teams in the top 5 and only 1 SWAC team with Tennessee State being the 5th team in there. So intriguing this week number 7 when we break down the rules. With that being said, we'll come back on the other side, give you a scoring update. We'll get into some matches this week now that things are looking fun and see who may be on this.
Sneaker shop.
Sneaker shop talk. He's feeling the poll ranking in week number 7. I feel you. I wonder if he's one of those voters that made sure that they got Tennessee State got that 5th vote there.
Him and his best friend.
Yeah, I know, right? Him and his
With that being said, we'll take the next break. On the other side, I also have an article that I want to read that goes back to 1966 in February of that year. February 12th. So we're really talking about literally a week ago in 1966. So stick around so I can give you an update of what that is. Building Big Name on Court is the name of the article coming out of the Pittsburgh Courier, Charles. We'll be on the other side and give you a little tidbit of what that really is. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this last break. This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get into some scores, give you some updates in the SWAC in terms of what's taking place with the women scores thus far. Valley has pulled away from Prairie View, so we look like we're safe there. 41-25 with 1:14 left in the third. Alabama A&M still has a solid lead over FAMU. That's 30-10 with 6:34 left in the third as well. And Arkansas Pine Bluff is up over Texas Southern by 9, 40-31, 4:19 left in the third. So we'll see if we need to give you any updates, as those are pretty good spreads at this point, at least, with essentially a quarter and a half left in those matchups. Go ahead, Deidre.
I got two men's match where actually one has started, one's about to tip. Albany State and Allen are about to tip off, and the Morehouse and Kentucky State, Morehouse 21, Kentucky State 10, 11:45 remain in the first.
Go House. All right. We do have a final out of the OVC with the Tennessee State ladies losing to Lindenwood 75-70. Couldn't find a way to pull it out in terms of that matchup. I did want to get into some of the matchups this weekend. We'll start with the MEAC, if you would, in terms of the men's games, what that looks like for the MEAC. You have on Saturday, North Carolina Central at Howard, South Carolina State at Norfolk State, Delaware State at Morgan State, Maryland Eastern Shore at Coppin State. Question of the day is I'd like to ask you all, which of those four matchups or two have piqued your interest, particularly just how things have happened over the last week? Charles, which direction are you going with that in mind? It is a little harder.
Yeah, I would. I think actually one that's kind of intriguing to me is South Carolina State, Norfolk State, and obviously Central and Howard. Those are the intriguing ones to me this weekend.
I'm glad you did say the South Carolina State, Norfolk State from this perspective. That game is on ESPNU, so those that want to check it out, it's at 3 o'clock Central Time. You can check it out, ESPNU, the matchup between South Carolina State and Norfolk State, with Norfolk State gaining some momentum. They've won 3 games straight. You have South Carolina State that did pick up the win yesterday we talked about. So I can see where there's some intrigue in that matchup in terms of they're even in the loss column with Norfolk playing 1 additional game, so have an additional win. With that being said, AD Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of what you see of those 4 matchups in the MEAC?
Yeah, can I move to Monday night? Because that's the matchup that really intrigues me in the MEAC.
Yeah.
And I'll do them quickly. Howard, Morgan, South Carolina State, Maryland Eastern Shore, Central, and Delaware State, Norfolk, and Coppin State. And it has to be Howard, Morgan. It has to be Howard Morgan on Monday night as the primetime matchup for me.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't know what's going on with my ESPN. I don't even have the Monday names listed. So
that's why I went straight to the MEAC, MEACsports.com. So that's what I'm looking at. So
I appreciate it. You keep me on sharp there. Let's go to the SWAC and see what's going on over there on the men's side of those games for Saturday. We do have 1 men's game today with Bethune-Cookman. I guess that's why they played the other game early. Maybe that's some type of makeup there. But Bethune-Cookman is leading Alabama State 20-5. So Bethune-Cookman is looking to get well real quick. They got a little excited in that matchup. But in terms of Saturday, you have rivalry matchup, Jackson State at Alcorn. It's in Lawrence, so that makes that intriguing, if nothing else. They always go at it, but something special when it gets down there. You know, the clock stops, different things. You know, you think you're in Baton Rouge. It's weird. Oh, did I say that? Never mind. You have Alabama A&M at Bethune-Cookman. If that's any indication of how Bethune-Cookman is bouncing back, that could be interesting, maybe. We'll see what you gentlemen say. Texas Southern and Mississippi Valley State. Valley on the men's side is working through what Prairie View is on the women's side. Can they get the victory as the season closed? Looks like those games are getting a little more spread than they were playing earlier. You have Alabama State at FAMU. Another rivalry matchup has the Bayou Classic on the hardwood. You have Grambling at Southern. You have Prairie View at Pine Bluff. That's an intriguing matchup in terms of who's not. But enough of me giving my opinion. I want to go to Drew and get his.
Let me start off with this, Dr. Cavil.
Sure.
Because of the schedule flip and a lot of double headers tonight on the men's side, that's gonna be 4 games in 8 days for a lot of these guys. So and it's gonna be for a couple of teams. They still have a Monday night game, probably a makeup, but you know,
one that Valley at Grambling. I'm glad you pointed it out. Yes.
Yeah, but it breaks up the routine. If you got and this time, and we knew this was coming. We knew this was coming with the schedule, but
it still breaks it up to you.
Yeah, you've probably still got into your routine. We play on Monday night, okay. We travel back Monday, Tuesday's probably my off day. Light workout just gets some shots up on Wednesday. You get more back into it Thursday and Friday. Now, even though you don't practice that hard this time of the year, it's more walkthroughs than actual practice. It's still these kids get into a routine. These coaches get into a routine. That's the first thing I wanted to point out. But if you want to talk about some matchups that I'm looking forward to between tonight and Saturday, Dr. Cavil, tonight got to be the ag schools playing each other. Alabama A&M, Florida A&M.
I like that.
Tonight, battle of the 1890s. But Saturday, come on now, and Charles, I'm not gonna steal your thunder. I know Alcorn Jackson State is probably gonna roll off of your tongue, and I'm really, I'm really interested in that just because it's Alcorn State and Jackson State. You know, you've got to pick that one up. But can Bethune get back into the winning business?
Yeah.
That's the question. Lost 2 in a row. If they drop one tonight, oh my God, it's gonna be pandemonium on the beach. They gonna throw somebody from the beach into the ocean. That's all I'm gonna say.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Charles, what are your thoughts?
Texas Southern Arkansas Pine Bluff is intriguing tonight. I
I
think
thought
that
I thought about that one.
yeah, that one jumps out for me. You mentioned Alabama A&M and Florida A&M. I think that's one that I'm paying attention to. And then obviously Saturday, actually, I'm calling Jackson State and Alcorn. So that one is actually going to be, I think, a fun one. Always fun down on the reservation when Jackson State gets down there.
When's the last time you've been on the reservation for a game, Charles, for basketball?
For basketball, oh gosh,
you got to go back to school, huh?
Yeah, it's been a second or two. Maybe I want to say maybe 2013, 14, something like that. But it's been a second or two since I've been down there for basketball. So I'm really looking forward to that. That is a real raucous environment and atmosphere.
It really is.
I
keep because I care because it's a great environment.
Oh yeah. And then I think Grambling Southern. That's the one on Saturday that is intriguing too. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of them with those teams bunched up are important games more than that. If you give me a little luxury before we close out the show, I teased out that I wanted to talk about this article from 1966, February 12th, literally a week ago, 12 years ago. I wanted to show you that I got it out of the Pittsburgh Courier, so that's what we posted up here. Don't worry about the view because I'm going to read it for you. Building big names on court. This is, although it's Pittsburgh Courier, it was written out of Atlanta, Georgia, long forgotten of those years prior to 1934, when all major Negro college athletic associations and conferences depended solely upon the visitation season to establish conference and national champions. Today, for the 12th straight year, the Kingpins aim for perfect going past two tournaments. The first hurdle, of course, are the respective conference tournaments, not merely for the Big Four, CIAA, Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association. They had changed their name in 1950 from color, so this is just 16 years after that. 60 years ago from last Thursday, to be exact. The SIAC, Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Association, the SWAC, Southwestern Athletic Conference, and the MWAA, Midwestern Athletic Association, that many of us know as the Midwestern Conference or the Midwestern Athletic Conference, as it had three different nomenclatures during its 40-year reign. But for the Little Four, first time I had heard the breakdown in this combination, so it was fascinating when I read that, which is the SEAC, the EIAC, the SCAC, and the GGAC as well, referred to as the Little Four. I've heard some of these combinations: Southern Eastern Athletic Conference, the Eastern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, the SCAC. I've seen that name before, but it skips me right now. But I've never heard of the GGAC. I'd have to go a little deeper to bring that to you. But I wanted to share our history today. Hence, at this season, the form sheet makers began looking around for the successful forces by way of their records, to wit, schools, win-losses, what they have, Cheney, Teachers College, as they were calling it then, Pennsylvania. We know it as Cheney State now, 17-11. South Carolina State out of the SIAC, 13-1. North Carolina A&T out of the CIAA, 11-1. Grambling recently have joining the Southwestern Athletic Conference, previously of the Midwest Athletic Association, which you can understand when you hear these teams why that conference was deep at that time. Mm-hmm. They were 16-2, Grambling was. Tennessee State wasn't always independent. They were in the Midwestern Athletic Association, people forget. 12-2. Jackson State, as they joined the Conference of Southwestern Athletic at the same time Grambling did in 58. They were 15-3 at that time. And you had Central State of the Midwestern Athletic Association, that it was 11-3. The article goes on and says, while there is no guarantee whatsoever that the 7 teams presented here by any stretch of the imagination will wade through their respective tournaments for NAIA NCAA showdown. They had made great strides last watch. 4 of them had found places in the UPI ratings. Last week, when Grambling was ranked 3rd, Tennessee rated 6th, Cheney was 8th, and Central State took the 9th spot. At the top, of course, looms Southern Illinois at 11-3, historically white college university, as I refer to them for those that are thinking about that. Thanks to an 84-71 rout of Coach Harold Hunter's ambitious Tigers of Carbondale, Illinois. The Salukis 5 must be a barn burner. In fact, if it can jolt the Tennesseans in that fashion, other teams listed by UPI were North Dakota at 16-3. The second slot perennial Evansville, Indiana College. 4th, Valparaiso, 14-3. 5th, Kentucky Wesleyan, 12-2. 7th and 10th place were Oglethorpe, 15-2 of Atlanta, Georgia. You had Alcorn College's basketball Braves.
Yeah.
The 13-4 compact at last week's summoning is considered an even up rival with Grambling and Jackson State for the 4th coming Southwestern Athletic Tournament. It is possible that some unknown stumblebum, like the lowly 1947 Virginia State Trojans, will get hot in the manner that Harry Jefferson's historic club did and burn up the floors. The wonderful thing about it all, however, is the great image of Negro college basketball coaches have managed to create as producers of championship NAIA caravans at Tennessee State, at Texas Southern, at Central State, at Prairie View, and Grambling since 1954. The Negro College Tournament idea came into being 20 years previous at Tuskegee, where the late Chief Aikens favored Reeves, McNeil, Ray, Kenny, Johnson 5 bowed to the late coach Robert S. Abbott. Williams, Robinson, Downs, Green, Adams, Giants, who in a sudden inspiration wiped the backboards clean. Clark had prevailed during the visitation, 54-41 in Atlanta, 50-44 at Tuskegee. Actually, the modern age commenced in Atlanta at the City Auditorium in 1924. That's your history lesson for the day. Exactly 60 years from last week on the 12th, as this article was written, February 12th in 1966 out of the Pittsburgh Courier, coming from Atlanta, Georgia. We'll tease these out every once in a while. I'm doing a project where I'm going back in the archives, looking at Pittsburgh Courier. I have a couple of other ones I'll send you all to tease out, and y'all let me know when's the next one I should provide you that. But before we go, I certainly want to get your comments. First, 80 Drew, let's read this one. Dr. Cavil is the great Wendell Smith who wrote that article. Yes, it is. You're right. Thank you, Emmett, for putting that to the point. I did fail to mention his name. Go ahead, 80 Drew.
Wow, Dr. Cavil. I'm just sitting up there listening to that, and I'm gonna have to do somebody gonna have to do some deep diving on those conferences that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And who were the schools
Yeah.
in those conferences? That's number one.
Correct.
Number two,
help me
I
out.
don't know. What was that, Dr. Cavil?
No, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one of the projects I'm looking at. So I'm asking for help. The other part before you get going is looking for the missing history of the SWAC in terms of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, where we do not have those records. If you go to the SWAC website, because some of that archive material was burned over a period of time, we've lost it. It only goes to the mid 50s and 60s, and I've tracked down some of it, and I feel comfortable. Once I get real comfortable with that, I will present it to the Southwestern Athletic Conference to see if they would be willing to make an update to their records. I believe they will. And hopefully along the way, I'll be able to get some of that SIAC history, CIAA history that is done pretty well as we do it, and pay homage to the Midwest Athletic Association, which it's kind of disappeared, which a lot of those stories and history of great programs. We need that information. We don't have that information for the private institutions in Texas of Wiley that dominated the SWAC football. You talk about Paul Quinn in there for a short time, but Texas College with some of those legendary coaches. So we'll continue to do the work, but please finish your thoughts, AD Drew.
Emmett brought up something about Walt Frazier and Dick Gregory at SIUE. I actually have been to some SIUE versus SIUC basketball games with me being from St. Louis. And those who don't understand geography, SIUE Edwardsville is maybe 25, 30 minutes from downtown St. Louis into Illinois. So it's in the St. Louis DMA or the St. Louis metro area, just on the east side. And Carbondale is less than 2 hours away from St. Louis. So I have partaken in some of those. And at one point in time, I was working down in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which is not that far from Carbondale. So I've seen that on both sides. But Dr. Cavil.
Shout out to President Lane up there with the Salukis.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah. But Dr. Cavil, you mentioned
Chancellor Lane, as they call him there.
I don't know who when I got to Morehouse, I was so pleasantly surprised when they showed me the archive room that they have in the athletics department at Morehouse. And one day, Dr. Cavil, I just went down a rabbit hole. I was in there looking for something. I don't remember what it was. And let me explain this area. When I say this archive room, there are probably 15 to 20 4 and 5 drawer file cabinets in this room. And I'm not even talking about the crates and stuff. I'm just talking about in the file. Some of these file cabinets, I still have not been able to jimmy the lock and get the drawers open to pull them out. But anyway, went down the rabbit hole. I was looking for something and just started grabbing old programs and media guides and blah blah yada yada yada. You know, I found a souvenir book. It was a media guide, the first 50 years of the SIAC.
Oh wow.
1963.
Yeah, I need that.
And then I found something from the 75th of the SIAC.
Wow.
I looked, I went through, I saw that we had multiple copies of both of these publications. I immediately, well, not immediately, but next time I saw some the appropriate person from the conference office, I put a copy of them in their hands because we had multiple copies of them in our file cabinet. If it would have only been one copy, I would not have let it go. But since we had multiple copies, I'm like, y'all need to have this at the conference office. Yeah. So I understand where you're coming from, and I could get you some of that SIAC stuff just based on what I was able to find at Morehouse. And shout out to whoever was there before me and the multiple people who were there before me who maintained those paper records while I work to make sure that stuff is maintained in a digital space now.
Good job. Great job. Great. Just to do that. Charles, we'll let you have the final thoughts on this.
Fascinating history. And I'm sure, sometimes you just got to uncover that stuff in people's attics. I was home maybe last year and saw an old Midwestern Athletic Conference media guide from when Jackson State was in that conference. My cousin had played in the 50s at Jackson State and was fascinated by that. And then, of course, the time I spent at Texas Southern, I just happened to be in the library down in the basement and saw the 1952 trophy, and everybody knew that it was over there. So, it was just fascinating sometimes to uncover that history, and it's important for it to be documented. I'm glad that you're on a project now to save that history and present it, and so that we could tell the story. That is very important. Thank you, Emmett. Because I've just heard so many stories about Big John Merritt, and then there's a pipeline from Kentucky to Jackson State, especially Kentucky State to Jackson State.
Yeah, that triangle, if you would, between Kentucky State, Jackson State, and Tennessee State. Tennessee State, Kentucky State is fascinating, particularly when you think about both of them being in the Midwestern Athletic Association. That is quite fascinating there. As Drew, I'm sure, went to grab maybe some of that history trying to find it, we will give some updates on some scores before we give our final closing thoughts here. On the men's side, we do have Bethune-Cookman up over Alabama State 40-26. That's with 3:43 left in the first half. Let's look at the OVC to see if that game started yet with Tennessee State. No, it's scheduled to start at 7:30. We got a little time before that tip off.
It's pretty cool.
So
Dr.
let's
Bill.
give you. Oh yeah, that's it. The Golden Jubilee, SIAC. Wow, 1913 and 1963. Yeah, I need a copy. Let me get a copy. Just do color copy. I'll do me just fine. Women's scores. I knew he was going to do that, and that's why I wanted to make sure we save some time for you.
I'm like, I think I got
I
it
knew
over
he was
there.
gonna
My
pull
stuff-
it. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, he's trying to get in them archives. You remind me of Dr. Carr when I watch his show in terms of going in those archives. Shout out to Dr. Carr, where I get a lot of my inspiration from the work that he does in terms of Africana studies. We do that now at Texas Southern University in our sport management program. When we look at that Africana studies framework that they use. So very important that we understand that our history doesn't start with just enslaved Africans here in the United States. But with that being said, we have Alabama State, Bethune-Cookman, as I said, it went final 61-60. Mississippi Valley State is over Prairie View 65-43, big now with 42 seconds left in the fourth, so that's over. Alabama A&M is starting to pour it on FAMU 40-27. There's 9:15 left in the fourth. That has tightened up a little bit in Pine Bluff with Texas Southern at 50. Pine Bluff still leads the Golden Lions 55, but that is 5:37 left in the fourth. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. That's every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Obviously, you see us many of the times with AD Drew helping us drive this ship as we want to give you not only the business of HBCU sports, but as you know, the history of HBCU sports as well. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1. That's on Facebook. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will have some updates on the Ben L. Cavil Senior HBCU Football Award. I found some more documents. I found out that Big Ben also called some of the legendary games, was the lead referee as well in the Turkey Day Classic known in Texas between the segregated high schools of Jack Yates High and Wheatley.
Oh, wow.
Where all the individuals that they put in the newspaper, just to let you know how the culture was in this sphere of HBCUs and how it was connected to those quote unquote segregated, historically Black high schools, is the fact that when you look in terms of the umpires that worked those games in the Negro newspapers, they would put in parentheses the college that they were attached to. So you have Texas College, you have Hampton and Howard connected with them calling this high school interscholastic football game that was legendary, that had some of the largest crowds in history at that level. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
AD?
Nice Eastside Golf hoodie, Charles.
Appreciate
Lecture.
Dismiss. I got my pullover is purple too. Shout out.